Former UFC title challenger Jake Shields is charged with misdemeanor battery following an alleged attack on former UFC fighter Mike Jackson at the UFC PI of all places. Welcome back to the City Life Project YouTube channel for another news reaction video. Let's get right into it. So Jake Shields, he's not necessarily always in the news, but in the world of MMA, he's a very vocal, a very, what are the kids calling it? Based figure. Whether you agree with his politics or not, that's not the focus of the video. This video is focusing on what happened between him and former UFC fighter, if we can give him that much credit. I guess he was technically a UFC fighter, but if you're not familiar with Mike Jackson, well, let's just dive into it.
I'm 37 years old. Jake Shields is probably like 45.
But first, Jake Shields charged with a single count of misdemeanor battery. On September 21st, 2023, he was told he would be summoned to appear in court on August 9th. He then failed to appear in court on August 9th, 2023, and as of this week has been officially charged with misdemeanor battery. As of now, Jake Shields has not been detained and refuses to comment on the matter. So shout out to MMA Fighting. They did a great job covering this story. And an interview with Mike Jackson on MMA Fighting, Mike Jackson was quoted saying, "He's a piece of shit. Jake Shields, I know someone who's going to tell you about this. You better be on your best behavior, you coward, because the man is looking for you. He has a warrant out for his arrest because he's a coward piece of shit. So he's on the run, essentially. He's ducking and dodging the cops because they want to get him. The district attorney wants to get his real good, so that is what's going to happen." This is what happened. An altercation between these two guys began on Twitter with arguments around racial politics. Jake Shields is no stranger to that on Twitter in particular. The situation eventually boiled over when both were at the UFC PI training in December, and Jake Shields allegedly attacked Mike Jackson. Jake Shields didn't do himself any favor as he posted a video / tweet and bragged about the physical incident that transpired. In that post saying, "Finally ran into the Mike Jackson. He quickly discovered the difference between calling people Nazis in person versus on Twitter. This racist is lucky so many people were there to save his pathetic racist ass." Jackson initially claimed that Shields attacked him without provocation or warning at all, and it seems the courts tend to agree. So who is Mike Jackson, you may ask? Because I feel like a lot of MMA fans my age, I mean, those in their late 20s, early 30s, you know who Jake Shields is. He fought George St. Pierre for the title at one point. Hell, he was a Strikeforce champion as well. Who's Mike Jackson, you might ask? Now, shout out to Napoleon Bonaparte, as when Mike Jackson was, again, and I say this tongue firmly planted in cheek, relevant, I wasn't really watching the UFC that much, and in my defense, it was one of the lower points of the UFC in the last, I would say, 20 years or so, as far as just relevant stars and then putting on regular good shows. Mike Jackson was Mickey Gall's first opponent in the UFC upon Mickey Gall being signed after, I believe it was the first season of Dana White's Looking for a Fight. He was also CM Punk's second opponent in the UFC. Obviously, CM Punk's first opponent being Mickey Gall. Dana absolutely roasted Mike Jackson after that CM Punk victory of his.
He's a complete idiot, and I couldn't wait for that fight to end, and I regretted not putting it on Fight Pass.
And said he would never be back in the UFC. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we all know Dana White is a man of his word. Mike Jackson has appeared in the UFC not once but twice since then, and apparently in good enough graces to be able to train at the PI. Or is that just something now, like, if you're a UFC alumni, you can train at the PI? I'm not sure. You guys let me know in the comments. And don't forget to smash the like button on this video and subscribe as well. We post content throughout the week like this, as well as vlogs and live streams every weekend. Mike Jackson has some pro boxing experience. Mike Jackson has some MMA experience. Dana White gave him 2 more fights in the UFC upon saying he would never sign this guy again upon roasting him after the CM Punk win. Now, he clowned CM Punk a bit and extended the fight longer than it should have been. He was absolutely dominating him and probably should have finished it. I agree with that. But shout out to Napoleon Blown Apart. He does a good job talking about this man in his CM Punk documentary. One of my favorite MMA YouTubers. Mike Jackson is also a photographer in the world of mixed martial arts. I know he was a longtime LFA photographer and just a guy who works in the media and social media space. Creative space, maybe, is a better way to put it, in the world of mixed martial arts and fighting. He actually has a fight set against Pat Miletich, and that's coming up on October 14th, and they're selling it as his longtime online rival. Wasn't Pat Miletich like his coach at one point and in his corner in the UFC? Mike Jackson is 38 years of age right now. Mike Jackson, though, he does say that he's been trying to set up a boxing match with that of a Jake Shields so they can settle it in the ring, and Jake Shields has dodged him. Jake Shields has not responded. Jackson is quoted saying, "He agreed to box me." Those are his words, okay? You agreed to box me. Here are the terms. We do pride rules. 10 minutes first round, and every round after is 5 minutes. There is no round limit. We go until someone quits or someone gets knocked out. And it will be on pay-per-view stream, and we split the profit 60% to the winner and 40% to the loser. He's like, no, that. You're I want to fight you UFC 1 bare knuckles rules. You're a piece of shit. So anyways, it's an online battle between these two. Jake Shields, officially charged, never appeared in court. If convicted with just a misdemeanor, Jake could face up to 6 months in jail or have to pay a $1,000 fine. Is this a case of around and find out? Is Jake Shields going a little too far? Is Mike Jackson going a little too far, talking shit online against, whether you like him or not, accomplished and well respected in the cage, in that of a Jake Shields? Is Mike Jackson biting off more than he can chew? And if they did do a pay-per-view live stream on YouTube, I mean, like, how much could they charge for this thing? Seriously, they would have to make it by donation, because I'm maybe paying $1, and that's $1 Canadian, not $1 USD, because that's actually worth something. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.